This week on Hatter or Lower, we are joined by yet another very special guest. A warm welcome to the podcast, broadcast journalist and Luton Town fan, Faye Carruthers. How are you getting on today, Faye?
I'm really well, thank you, Ollie. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's an honour having you on. And, we're discussing this beforehand. You were saying, I'm going to be really bad at this. But as long as you get better than a 0 out of 10, you beat my score. How about that? But I want to kick this off and ask, because you work in the mainstream media, so you speak to all the decision makers every day. Are Luton good? Are Luton bad? So what are the perceptions from your colleagues in the mainstream media about Luton Town in the Premier League this season?
That we are absolutely giving it a go, and we have become everybody's second favourite team. It makes me so proud, actually. I remember the first game of the season that I was able to go to, and just seeing, it was like a really strange mix of like my professional and my personal life clashing together, because obviously I've covered Luton before in the Championship, but I predominantly work in the Premier League nowadays. So seeing a lot of my colleagues there and hearing from all of them how friendly everybody at Kenilworth Road was, and how brilliant everybody had been and how accommodating. And then the journey that we've been on this season has been even, more remarkable, considering the journey we were on before we even got to this season. So it's been brilliant hearing from people who all want us to stay up. Obviously, unless you're a supporter of, say, Burnley or Sheffield United or Nottingham Forest, you probably don't want us to stay up, or even Everton. But at the same time, lots of other fans we've won them over, which is brilliant to see.
Yeah, it has been a season, and I'd say at the beginning of the season, most Luton Town fans were kind of, I don't want to say expecting relegation. They sort of assumed that relegation would be the most likely case scenario, but we continued to grow into the season, and with that, expectations raised. Like, do you think Luton Town have a genuine shot of staying in the Premier League this season?
Oh, without a doubt. But I've said that right from the beginning, and not as a deluded Luton fan. You know what it's like. Fans can be very much, they're either doom and gloom or they're ridiculously over-optimistic. I like to think that I pitch in the middle somewhere. And right from the beginning, this club is special. You know that as a Luton fan. And the board are special. This group of players are really special. It's quite amazing how they've managed to collate a squad where they genuinely get on. I've been lucky enough to go down to the training ground, and I've said this, on talkSPORT on many occasions. They're genuinely a together group. It's not, like you go to some training grounds and it feels very forced and put on and whatever. That they all get on really well, and you can really tell that, and that's going to push them over the line. I just think, that there's a slight concern over the number of injuries. I know that Rob Edwards doesn't want to use that as an excuse, but it's a really big thing at this point of the season, which is always the point of the season where people start dropping like flies. But it feels like we've had really key personnel go by the wayside around this crucial part. I really didn't want that Bournemouth game rearranged for midweek. I wanted that to be after the international break in an ideal world, but hey ho, we are where we are. And we just have to deal with the hand that we've been dealt, and I think we're dealing with that very well. It was great to get a point against Forest at the weekend. That was really important. We'd have loved 3, obviously, but we'd have loved 3 against Bournemouth as well, and then we'd be having a different conversation. It's going to be difficult. It was always going to be difficult. I always thought it would go right down to the wire, but I still believe that we can stay up.
Yeah, a lot of Luton fans kind of don't want it to go down to the wire. I don't know if you're old enough to remember the 82-83 season. I'm not either. But I don't think my heart could take last minute day escape. I just can't take it.
Come on, Ollie, you're a Luton fan. We always leave it to the last minute. Taking me back to that Championship season where we stayed up against Blackburn. That was so stressful. Yeah. It was, I feel as if, they were iconic moments in our history. And yes, it's stressful. And no, I don't remember it. I'm also, thankfully, I was alive, but not not old enough to have any live recollection of it, but I obviously know what happened, and the iconic images of David Pleat running down the touchline that we all know, that the whole of football know. And I feel like we could potentially have that. I'd love for it to be wrapped up earlier than that, but this season's bonkers and there's so many other things at play. We don't even know at the end of the season, because of this points deduction farce, we don't actually know whether or not we're going to know whether we've been relegated or staying up, points regardless. Because it's going to depend on appeals and various other things. And that's something that I think is really disappointing. But we just have to do what we're doing. Look at the table as if there are no points deductions and keep it in our own hands.
Yeah, very well said. Very well said indeed. And I want to talk about your career in broadcast journalism, because for the next generation of people aspiring to get into broadcast journalism, can you talk about your journey through the media to all the way to the top?
Okay, it's been a zigzag. It's certainly not been linear. Yeah, I mean, it's taken a long while. I'm older than people realise, I think, sometimes. And obviously it was much harder for women in particular getting into sport. So I've had to push and be good. And I'd like to think that my hard work has paid off massively. I don't tend to interview for jobs anymore. I'm people come to me to ask me to work for them, which is a really good position to be in, and that's because of the hard work that I've put in over the years. But yeah, I kind of started off. So I did broadcast journalism at university, which is always a really good grounding, I would say, for people. I got lots of work experience, which is also a really good grounding. But then I was always told that I had a really good voice for news and was authoritative. And so a lot of people tried to push me into news. And actually, when I left university, I didn't want to be a journalist because I'd been pushed into news and I found it really difficult. And I just thought, I don't want to be in this world. It's really negative and depressing. And yeah, I don't think this is for me. So I actually got a job at Sky as a PA. So I was in the right place, but not in the right job. I was in marketing, terrible PA, so disorganised, really not very good at it. But I had to walk through Sky Sports in order to get to the canteen every day. So I managed to meet the woman that books runners and loggers for Sky Sports. And I used to do my 9-to-5 marketing PA job. And then in the evenings and weekends, I used to log for Goals on Sunday, if you remember that, on Sky Sports. I used to work as a runner on the tennis. And I did some NFL, I did some golf. And then I was offered a job at Sky Sports News. They had a maternity cover going for somebody to book the camera crews and hook up the camera crews and reporters on Sky Sports News. So I did that and I absolutely loved it. And from there, I was able to get more on-air time on radio. I worked for Sky News Radio and I did news and sport for them. Then I went travelling for a while, and then I came back and lived up in Leeds and worked up in Leeds. Again, I was told every time I wanted to do the sport, well, we've got a guy to do that. I was like, okay. So I just kept doing my work, kept doing the extra shifts when they did come along. Got a job back down in London at Sky News Radio, and ended up reading the sport on talkSPORT as part of that, as well as working as a producer on Sky News on their sports desk. So that's where I got my experience. And then a job came up at talkSPORT on the Alan Brazil Sports Breakfast Show, reading the news, but on a sports radio station. So I went and did that. And I spent 4 years there, and it was great fun, really big, steep learning curve. And from there, I went freelance, and I've been freelance ever since. And then ended up back at talkSPORT. I left in 2011, and I ended up back there in 2019, covering the Women's World Cup for them, and then became England correspondent as a result of that for men's and women's. And it's kind of gone from strength to strength, really. Soccer Saturday was like probably the highlight of my career when I was asked to be one of the reporters on Soccer Saturday. That was a really proud moment, especially because my granddad used to love that programme. He loved the relationship between Jeff Stelling and Bianca Westwood and the banter that they had. But unfortunately, he died before he got to see me on that programme, which was really upsetting. But I loved working on that show. And then I ended up in the pandemic because there was no football for me to go on a gantry and report from at the time. talkSPORT asked me to host a quiz on a Saturday night with Darren Bent. And so I did that. So I left Soccer Saturday to do that. And then I've been hosting live football for talkSPORT ever since.
It's amazing. There's a lot of graft in there. Wow. You're
Oh,
putting
yeah.
in the hard yards.
Yeah, you don't, unfortunately, I'd love to say that there's a really easy route to this. There isn't, but there are so many more opportunities than there were when I was first coming up. You know, now club media has massively taken over. A lot of clubs, as you're watching with Luton now, are doing all their own in-house media work. Really important, great grounding for people to go into and get some great experience. Social media wasn't around when I was coming through. That is now a really, you know, big part of how people are honing their skills, learning to be comfortable on camera and speaking as well. And there's so many opportunities out there for people to start themselves, you know, like you've done, start your own podcast. You know, that wasn't available to people before. You had to actually have a platform, and now everybody's got their own platform by having a phone, effectively. So there's loads of opportunities out there, but you will have to work hard for them and just be a good person. I think most of the work I've ever got has been through contacts of people who've really enjoyed working with me, because I don't make life difficult for them and I work hard, like two really basic skills. So yeah, you have to have a little bit of luck along the way, be in the right place at the right time. Sometimes that certainly comes into play, but I would say that most of the work I've got has purely been through hard work and dedication and a bit of resilience and yeah, not giving up.
I think those are very wise words, because a lot of people these days think, oh yeah, if I just wait, the opportunities will come. But no, you got to chase the opportunities. You got to graft. You got to work hard for these things. But talking about how you are at the top now, and with it being international break, what is it like following the England team around?
It's great fun. There's always a story, that's for sure. It's never ever a quiet England camp. It was another one of my proudest moments, actually, being named England Correspondent for talkSPORT for the men's and the women's side. But particularly following Gareth Southgate's side recently, and obviously getting to the Euros final was absolutely incredible. Then the women winning the Euros the following year was absolutely incredible. Going out to Qatar and following the team was amazing. Going out to France in that quarterfinal, I'll just never forget the feeling in the tunnel after that. It was just utter devastation, really. But hope as well for the future. I interviewed Jude Bellingham after that game, and I was struck by how confident he was that England were going to win a trophy in, you know, the coming years. And I really believe him. I think they've got a brilliant opportunity. Injuries pending, obviously, out in Germany in the summer. So yeah, it's great. I mean, I think the easiest thing for me is that I don't really get massively wowed by celebrity, if that makes sense. So I don't ever have like a pinch me moment of, oh, I was just doing this. It just kind of is what my job is. And I know that sounds really almost glib, and I don't mean it like that, but I've just never really got excited about celebrities. So when I interview these footballers, they're just, you know, young lads who are playing, who I want to find out more about for the listeners to garner more about them and what goes through their head when they're playing in front of 90,000 people.
And do you think that Ross Barkley should be selected for England for the Euros?
Well, funnily enough, I actually talked to Gareth Southgate about this when I interviewed him last week, and I said, please don't take offence to this, but I'm really relieved you didn't call up Ross Barkley, because I don't want him to get injured. Because it just seems at the moment that there's a dearth of injuries in the squad, and we desperately need Ross for the end of the season. So I don't want him having extra load on his plate. But that's a very selfish reason. I'm sure Ross would have loved to get back into the England setup, but yeah, it's excuse me. England's midfield's really interesting at the moment, and I certainly think that Ross could do a job. So yeah, we'll see what happens in this squad, and then potentially the long list. I wonder whether he's been, you know, on the long list that's going to be submitted to UEFA. We won't get told that, but I wonder whether Ross has been and Luton have been approached about that potential.
Look, it's an absolute no-brainer that he should be on the long list. I'm with you. I'm happy that he hasn't been included for what I don't even follow England at tournaments anymore. Sorry to say, just because we go through the motions. It's all cut and dry, isn't it?
No,
It's better.
not at all. Ollie, you're missing out. It's a
Really?
roller coaster. Yes. Oh my goodness. Honestly, like not that long ago. You have to remember, Wembley was not sold out for England games, and it is now, because we're watching an incredible generation of footballers playing brilliant football most of the time, not always, but most of the time. And yeah, it's a good time to be an England fan, I would say. And I think a lot of people that were lost along the way previously should start coming back. That's my personal opinion, though. But I'm an England fan and a Luton fan. I'd tell people to come to Kenilworth Road and to Wembley very, very quickly.
Look, I'm club over country in that sense. Like, look, I'm happy that Ross hasn't been selected for this international break, but I feel if he is the centerpiece of Luton Town staying up in the Premier League, he pretty much has gone and played his way into the England squad. He's played his way into the PFA Team of the Year. He's played himself into multiple end of season awards because he is, without a doubt, the best Luton Town player I've seen in my lifetime. Obviously, there is that discussion: who is better, Ricky Hill or Ross Barkley? Well, where do you stand on that?
It's a different game. I don't think you could. And the thing is, it depends on how you're commenting on it, because Ricky Hill, in terms of Luton's history, is obviously the better player. In terms of skills, etc., Ross probably just about edges it. But it depends who you've seen live as well. I very much, I just love watching Ross play. He's so silky. Just like the ball is just attached to his feet. It's wonderful to watch. But Ricky Hill is Luton inside out. So Ross has only been with us a season, not even a full season yet. So I heard David Wilkinson say that Ross is the best player he's ever seen play in a Luton shirt. And I would agree with him there, because he's been absolutely outstanding. And I really hope that he stays fit for the rest of the season. I want to get Sambi Lokonga back in that midfield, because they were just playing so well together before Sambi's injury. And then I feel as if we're going to stay up, and Ross Barkley can definitely take a lot of the plaudits as one of the key players to help us do that.
Yeah, 100%. And as we're talking about Ricky Hill, I've got to ask you, what are your earliest memories following Luton Town?
So 1998, actually. So actually quite late, because my dad, I've got memories of Luton Town in terms of our FA Cup semi-final against Chelsea, and the 1988 League Cup final. I just don't really remember very much of at all. I was 8. So I just didn't really have that much, it was on the television, but I didn't really understand the context of it at that age. Probably didn't really discover football, if you like, till I was about 11, I would say. But I didn't actually go. I went to Kenilworth Road. I sang carols on the plastic pitch back in the day, but I didn't go to an actual game until I was 18 and I was at university, because my dad wouldn't let me go, because my dad used to go, and my dad didn't want me going because my dad didn't necessarily go to watch football when he went to watch Luton. So he didn't really want me going, which is fair enough. And I fought that. And I had a conversation, I've said this on podcasts before, and my dad doesn't always remember this actually, but I did a whole kind of, but Dad, this is my career moment, because I was working for my university radio station, and we had a sports show, and you could basically go and report on games for the Saturday sports show. And they used to pay your train tickets wherever you're going. I was like, great, well, I'll get my train ticket paid to go home to Luton, and I can go and cover a Luton game. Amazing. And my first Luton game was a 1-1 draw against Manchester City, would you believe? I reported on it at the back of the main stand on a flip-down Motorola, with those kind of extendable aerials. I still know the seat they've actually put media seating in there now. It's where the players sit now, where I was. And I mean, it's terrible. I'm so glad that I can't find that audio anywhere because it was bloody awful. But that was my first experience. I had no idea what I was doing. I was completely winging it. But as far as I was concerned, I was at a football match reporting on it, and it was Luton Town, and that was it. I was hooked. I was hooked from then.
That's amazing. Oh wow, you're gonna have to try and dig out that audio. Surely your university would have it,
No,
right?
I'm not. Definitely not.
Oh,
no
well,
way.
I'm going to have to do some investigation work here. I'm going to need the name of that Saturday sports show. I'm going to find it. I'm going to find it. I'm just telling you that.
Okay.
And so give me a top 5. Who are your favourite Luton Town players of all time?
So, as you know, this morning I wasn't sure whether I was going to be able to come on the podcast because I'd lost my voice last night. So I still sound pretty ropey. So I haven't actually done any prep for this at all. So this is totally off the top of my head. So Steve McNulty is up there because he's just bloody brilliant. Steve Howard has to be up there as well. I feel like Kevin Nichols should be in there. Obviously, I can't. Mick Harford for me, he's just total number one Luton legend for every single reason possible. So he would always be my absolute number one. I can't say the Steen brothers because I wasn't quite that era, even though they were wonderful. I loved Marvin Johnson and have since become mates with him, actually. He's out in America now. Thought he was a brilliant captain. He's a brilliant guy. Such good fun. I've done their podcast, actually. That was really good fun. And so there you go. I've given you kind of 5 or 6 there, and I'm sure I've missed out some absolute crackers.
Oh yeah, it's impossible naming all the favourite players, some iconic players that have played for Luton Town. But let's kick it to present day. Who are your favourite players from the current squad? Try and pick a top player for you. Go on.
Oh, okay. Well, it's obviously Ross Barkley is up there because I've said he's the best player that's ever worn a Luton shirt. But I've loved Chio this season. I think he's been absolutely brilliant. I remember all the WhatsApp chats when we signed a forward from Rotherham. It's like such a Luton Town signing. Get promoted to the Premier League and sign a winger from Rotherham. Amazing. So I think he's been superb this season. I've been really impressed with him. And Alfie Doughty, bearing in mind he wasn't in the starting 11 at the beginning of the season. Ryan Giles was given the starts. I think the resilience that he showed and the brilliant set pieces, that he's been able to bring. I'm desperate to hear that he's okay. I hear it's a bit of a hamstring strain. Fingers crossed. He's going to be all right because he's been vital for us. We've been so threatening on set pieces, and he's a large part of that. So they're the 2 outside of. I'm going to have a third now as well. Ted Mengi, I think, has really stepped up to the mark. Obviously, he's been given an under-21s call-up as well for England, which has shown how excellent he's been in trying circumstances. But I think it's cruel just to pick one player because I think the entire squad have massively stepped up to the mark this season and have been so impressive. But they're my kind of standouts.
Yeah, it's difficult. It is really hard to pick like just one player. You hit the nail on the head with Chio because
Kaminsky.
Kaminsky, of course, Kaminsky. Just the whole team.
I just go through the other day. I went through the whole team.
Yeah. Oh, never mind. But Faye, are you ready to play some Hatter or Lower?
Oh, do you know what? I'm not. I'm going to be terrible at this. Really bad. But I'm ready for it.
Well, let's go. Hatter or Lower is powered by Hatters Heritage, a website that does the important job of preserving the history of our club. They always need volunteers, and you can check them out at hattersheritage.co.uk or get in touch by Googling Hatters Heritage. And that's exactly what Will from Luton Town Facts and Figures has done to get the names and appearance totals for 20 Hatters. I then ask who played more, player A or player B. The contender then has to guess who made more appearances for the Hatters and try and get as high up on our leaderboard as possible. It's now time to play Hatter or Lower, and this week's contender is broadcast journalist and Luton Town fan, Faye Carruthers. How are the nerves?
Oh, jangling.
Yeah. Yeah, they should be. This is so. Will actually put this together after the Bournemouth game, so
Okay.
it's pretty horrible. He's taking his frustration out on you.
Oh no. Okay, go on then.
Right. Who play more, Ahmet Berkovic or Keith Keane?
Oh. Oh. Oh, I'm just trying to think. It's going to have to be Keith, isn't it? In terms of... I think it's got to be Keith.
Correct! Ahmet Berkovic played 223 times for Luton Town. Keith Keane, 285. Up and running. Here we go.
Oh,
They get harder.
That was close, that is.
Yeah, it was close.
Go on then.
Like, both great servants for the club.
Amazing.
Who play more, Emerson Boyce or Kevin Foley?
Oh. Ah, da, 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 da. Ah. I think Kevin Foley.
Incorrect. Emerson Boyce played 212 times for Luton Town. Kevin Foley, 166.
Oh, so that wasn't even close. I didn't realise he played over 200 games. That's amazing.
Yeah, Boyce got into the team pretty early. But so did Kevin Foley.
Yeah,
it was a tough one.
That's what I was thinking. I was thinking, when did they leave? When did they... That was what my brain was going, when did they leave, rather than when did they start playing senior football.
Right, next up. Who play more, Dean Brill or Carl Emerson?
Oh, Dean Brill.
Correct! Dean Brill played 109 times for Luton Town. Carl Emerson, 60. There we go.
That was easier. That was an easier one.
Yeah, Dean Brill had 2 stints as well. And Carl Emerson just, he was sort of jockeying for that number 1 spot with Mark Ovendale, and then they both lost out to Marlon Beresford, who was just a far superior goalkeeper.
Yeah, I've been waiting for Marlon to come into one of the comparisons.
Well, maybe. Who played more, Dean Morgan or Calvin Andrew?
Oh. I don't remember Dean Morgan that much, so I'm going to go for Calvin Andrew.
Incorrect. Dean Morgan played 101 times for Luton Town. Calvin Andrew, 67.
God, that's terrible.
Yeah, Dean Morgan.
How can I say I don't remember Dean Morgan playing much? He was bloody brilliant.
Wow, sometimes. I just had a complete brain fart. Sometimes he was brilliant. Terrible. Like, the thing with Dean Morgan, he scored that absolutely incredible goal on his home debut, where I think it was against Southampton, where he cut in, little step over, and then just bent it in for a 3-2 win, like in the 90th minute. On his day, he was unplayable, but he had attitude problems, which was the problem. And it plagued him throughout his entire career.
I'm going to let you say that, but yeah, that is now massively jogging my memory. Although I wouldn't have remembered the goal, which is terrible, but I have a memory honestly, memory like a sieve. It's terrible.
Oh, it's a great goal.
Yeah, I'm annoyed with myself.
Don't worry, there's still a lot more questions here. Okay. Who played more, Aaron Skelton or Ian Hillier?
Oh. I feel as if Skelton came off the bench quite a bit. I'm going back into... my brain was riddled with alcohol in the 2000s. Let me try and think.
Was that university life?
Yeah. University and living in London, working in the media.
Naturally.
Lots of white wine. I'm going to go. I'm going to go for Skelton.
Incorrect. Aaron Skelton played 32 times for Luton Town. Ian Hillier, 68.
That was a tough one.
Yeah, come on. We need a strong second half here.
Okay. What am I on? What have I got? 2?
2.
Oh, God. Right. So I need...
into the final 5 now.
I need to get at least 3. Yeah, go on.
Well, okay. Well, let's do this. Who played more? Chris Coyne or Kevin Nichols?
Oh, God. That's horrible. They've got to be quite close to each other, I would say. Oh. Oh, God, I don't know. This is terrible. It's a 50-50 chance, Faye. For goodness sake, you're making a meal of it. I feel like the obvious answer is Kevin Nichols, so it's going to be Chris Coyne. So I'm going to go for Chris Coyne.
Correct! Chris Coyne played 252 times for Luton Town. Kevin Nichols, 238. Oh, that was a roller coaster right there. Whoa, I thought you were going to go wrong, and then you went right. Whoa, hey. Fantastic. Right, here we go. That was the start of the strong second half. Next up, who played more? Leon Barnett or Curtis Davis?
Oh, I know Curtis. Oh, Leon Barnett's got that brilliant academy, hasn't he? In Norfolk. When did he go to Norwich? I'm going to say Curtis.
Incorrect. Leon Barnett played 70 times for Luton Town. Curtis Davis, 62.
Oh, that was close.
Both sold way
close.
too early.
Yeah, without a doubt. Brilliant players.
Next up, who played more? Lee Mansell or Stephen O'Leary?
Ooh. Stephen O'Leary.
Incorrect. Lee Mansell played 62 times for Luton Town. Stephen O'Leary, 56.
Oh dear.
Faye has her head in her hands right now. She can't believe it.
I was really quite adamant on that one as well. I answered quickly.
You might have gotten confused with Mike O'Leary, who played a lot more than Stephen O'Leary, both in the squad at the same time.
I definitely didn't.
Okay.
I definitely didn't. I knew the difference, but I genuinely thought Stephen O'Leary had played more.
Lee Mansell had a lot of sub appearances. A lot.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking. I'd kind of, I don't know, he's in and out of the team.
Right, next up. Who played more? Paul McVeigh or possibly your friend, Sam Parkin?
Both. I know both of them, actually. Oh, Sammy P. I think it's Sam.
Correct.
I think it's Sam.
Paul McVeigh played 53 times for Luton Town. Sam Parkin, 56. There
Excellent.
we go.
He'll be pleased I got that right.
Yeah, good. I'm glad. All right. Final question. Strong finish. Here we go. Who played more? Petrie Helen or Don Hutchinson?
Oh, I know Don. Don't remember Petrie Helen, really. Oh, it feels obvious to say Don, but he didn't play very much for us, did he? When he did, he was great. But I feel like this is a trick question. And my gut tells me, because I'll be absolutely honest and hold my hands up. I just don't really remember Petrie Helen at all. So I'm going to say Petrie Helen.
Correct! Petrie Helen played 27 times for Luton Town. Don Hutchinson, 26. How about that?
Well, I knew he hadn't played any. That's amazing. Wow. That was cruel.
Yeah, it really was. It really was. They get harder as they go down. But Faye, mid-table mediocrity beckons for you because you got 5 out of 10. How about that?
I'll take that. 50%. I'll take that.
It's a good spot to be. You're nestled in nicely between Simon Oxley, Roger Wash. How about that? Good company.
Excellent. 2 absolute brilliant Luton legends. So I'll take that.
Amazing, Faye. You've been great. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.